Despite there being no balance changes for agents in this patch, the Valorant meta continues to shift. Valorant players can be quite slow to adapt to change, so the agent buffs and nerfs that happen throughout the year are having more impact now than ever. And we're here to tell you the best agents on every map. And this isn't just your average tier list. Let me take 30 seconds now to explain how it actually works. Some agents can be amazing on one map and dog water on another. So we rank every agent per role on every map. But not only that, we give you a flex ranking as well. There's 4 roles, but 5 players on a team. So this is for agents who struggle to fill their role as the primary agent, but when paired with someone else in their same role, can focus on their strengths or even play a whole new playstyle. If you've ever watched any VCT, you'll know that Viper is a key example of why this additional category is important. As a solo controller, she struggles to smoke most sites in the game, but as a secondary controller, she has a whole new playstyle on some maps. We'll be endeavoring to cover a variety of agents across tier lists with tips and tricks along the way for each agent. If your favorite agent wasn't covered on a particular map in this video, try checking out our previous tier list. All right, yep, yeah, I heard you in the comments on that short. Enough yapping, we're not here to put socks on caterpillars, so hit subscribe if you haven't already, and let's dive into the depths of Abyss for our first tier list. Abyss is a map that rewards you for playing agents with long or global range, verticality, and can take risks. It's why players love picking Jet on Abyss, but we've got some other duelists to talk about, so let's dive right in. Whilst good on most maps, Raze struggles on Abyss, and that's mostly due to the openness of the spaces on the map, but she still has some good tools, especially with the amount of Cypher people play. You can destroy all of his trips, and Paint Shells is fantastic for clearing out Troll. Now, as I predicted, Waylay stonks are rising, and I'm bumping her up to S tier. If you're one of the early adopters, you'll understand how good she is right now on Abyss. Her verticality and speed to cover large distances is crazy, and now that people are getting more used to her, she's performing better and better. Now, I'm recording this right before Champs begins, but I'm expecting a lot of teams to be playing her on Abyss at Champs, and I'll let the editors here make fun of me if I've got it wrong. You're smoking meth if you don't think Waylay is good. But speaking of Champs, you should come join our watch parties. But that's for later. Right now, we're going to move on to our Initiators, where we're going to be talking about Teo, who's my sleeper pick on Abyss right now. He has, in high elo especially, he's performing very well. With Teo, the plan is simple. Drone out main, salvo Troll if you're on B, and on A, either salvo one of the pockets on site, or use it to clear out Heaven, where someone like Waylay can take advantage and get into that space. And a little bit of greed is good. If you manage to save a salvo for post plant, it can be round winning. Sova remains undisputably the best initiator on Abyss, and that's why he's alone in S tier. The range of his abilities just makes it easy for him to outvalue everybody. Take his recon, for example. Not only can you shoot it across the whole map, when it lands, it will scan the whole site because the sites are so open. Moving on to controllers, and let's talk about Brimstone, who struggles on Abyss due to its massive size because of his limited range. The one thing Brimstone does have going for him, though, is his stall duration. That's why he's in B tier. Sometimes teams just cannot be asked rotating, so they end up sitting behind your smoke for ages. And on attack, your ranked teammates aren't the most efficient on execs. B ramp is long, man. Having that extra duration on Sky Smoke can be very helpful. Now, Astra is a tough agent to master, but her kit is so strong on Abyss. And one of the biggest obstacles is lack of comms. You won't be able to smoke or util at the right times, losing a lot of value. But if you have good comms or a duo you can rely on, she can shine. Killjoy is moving up into A tier as a secondary Sentinel. She struggles with the large map size, but with the strength of the Sentinel pool right now, she's a great addition that fits in with most other Senties on Abyss. Normally, I only really evaluate Killjoy as a primary Sentinel, but due to Abyss's size, having a secondary Senti to rely on for more global presence or additional stall really helps her focus on that localized area control, and she's still one of the best post-plant denial agents in the game. The Sage buffs have been absolutely huge for her, and with the scale of Abyss, that extra range on Barrier Orb makes your life so much easier. It's still very hard to play without a trip, so she's staying in A tier as a primary, but is S tier as your flex or secondary Sentinel. She's one of the best agents on the map right now. And here's your inspiration for 5-stack or Premier comps. We've really cooked with these ones. And let's soar out from the depths of Abyss to the skies of Ascent. Oh, it's so poetic. What a nice transition. There's been a huge shift in the VCT meta this year, moving more and more towards Yoru plus double Senti comps. And in ranked, that extra stall is super valuable as well, though it favors a couple of different agents. So let's get into it. Let's kick it off in reverse role order. The results are in. The trademark buff hasn't done anything significant for Chamber on Ascent, which to be honest makes it a lot of Ascents. Get it? The range restriction hardly came into play for Chamber on Ascent anyway. For ranked, you're much better with a strong stalling anchor, but if you want to see how the pros are making the most out of Chamber on Ascent, check out our latest VCT breakdown after watching this video. Killjoy, who is still the best performing and most popular Senti on Ascent. The smaller size allows you to flexibly position around your util. You can keep eyes on 3 lanes at once with this turret and alarm bot set up on A. That's right, you can get all the way around to pizza with this setup. And when you're playing B, stop putting this noob turret here on the back of barrels. Put it so it watches pizza and B main at the same time. Then you have the luxury of creating a blender setup because you can use your alarm bot with your nanos. Sliding down to A tier this patch, the changes to Sage have had a pretty big impact on the Ascent meta because of how popular and strong she is, and Sage and Astra are not a natural fit. They're both incredibly supportive agents, but their util kind of supports in the same way, so having a lot of it doesn't really work. Brimstone is moving up into S tier because he is a natural fit with Sage. Most of you probably haven't even considered it, but together Brimstone and Sage bring a strong focus on speed control and time control. This doesn't apply to all ranks though. As you move into high elo, Brimstone's value definitely falls off, but all the way up until plat, even diamond, Brimstone's going to be really good for you. Any extra stall time is more valuable on Ascent because when you stall the attackers, if your teammates decide to push and take space, they will take more of the map because Ascent is smaller than other maps and it's quicker to do so. If that doesn't make sense to you, it's because you forgot to carry the 1. And while you mull over that, let's talk about Breach. Now, if you're going to play Breach, you need to be patient on Ascent. Ascent is a map where it's so easy to rotate, and if you dump all of your util too early or give away your trap, it'll all be for naught. Look to pair up with Cypher to get maximum value out of those stuns. We've got to keep saying it for everyone who's new, but Sova is just insane on Ascent. Sova's obviously very good right now, but Ascent is where he's called home for the longest time. Neon can be a great surprise pick on Ascent. Although you can get countered by Cypher, you can almost always guarantee that you'll have a Sova on your team who can get rid of those troops for you. And if you're versing a Killjoy, you can make her have a terrible time. Just disrespect her setups and sprint right through them. But you're going to be a good little Neon player, okay? You're going to use your wall to help your team flood out onto site. Both of Ascent's sites are split into 2 stages, so it can help your team scale into that second stage without being exposed in the open front area of site. And if you want solo carry potential, pick Phoenix on Ascent. If you're newer to the game, Phoenix can be a great way to learn all the different aspects of Valorant. On attack, you can lead the charge or play more supportive. On defense, you can be aggressive or you can play in passive trap setups. And Phoenix's wall is particularly good on Ascent for dividing spaces into ones that are more favorable for you. And that's why he's the #1 agent on Ascent. He almost belongs in an S+ kind of tier. The way that he can fit into any team comp on Ascent and have a lot of value across all ranks means that you always want a Phoenix on your team. Normally I don't recommend this, but in low elo you can get a lot of value out of just playing really passive on defense on Ascent. That's because the sites are so much harder to exec when you have actual numbers on site. So agents with stuns and stalls are really, really great. Breach, Brimstone, Sage, and KJ are all fantastic picks. And as we take a look at Bind, you can see there's not too much movement in this tier list, but there is some very interesting changes. One thing to note about Bind is looking at how top heavy the Initiator tier list is, and that's because Bind is one of the most resource demanding maps to play, and why the classic ranked comp performs much worse on Bind than on other maps. Breach is fake news on Bind. He's a 1/2 agent. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh my god, I can stun all of B long on defense. It's a super important space. And yes, that is very good. But what about attack side? Bind sites can be defended like rows, and Breach wants to work in columns. And Breach is a kind of dump all of your util agent and then that's it. Whereas Bind, you want to have a little bit of flexibility to be able to go through the teleporters. And if you want ultimate flexibility, Gecko is your guy. Gecko works especially well on Bind because everything except A short is at minimum a 2-phase attack. So while other initiators are worried about managing their resources, do I use this bit of util here or on site? Gecko can just dump both Dizzy and Wingman and then pick them up and use them again on site. The design of Gecko's kit isn't just flexible because it's reusable, it's also good at clearing both tight and open spaces. Send Dizzy high into the sky so he can flash everyone on site, and Wingman you can use to clear those corners, just like Boombot. And that conveniently brings us onto Raze. And as far as solo duelists go, you can't go past her. The only support she needs is a pop flash and she can take over the whole game. She can do anything of value that any other duelist can do on the map, with one exception. And that's how flash, you can use teleporters. Now, nading through the teleporter is cool, but have you ever tried double diving through the teleporter with your best buddy in a flash and then TPing back to the other side of the map in an instant? That's right, I'm talking about Yoru and Waylay. Yoru is perfectly good as a solo duelist, but when you pair him with Waylay, they make each other so much better. Instead of being a crazy maniac teleporting all around the map, putting not only your enemies but yourself in a state of confusion, now you can use the power of friendship. And when there's two crazy maniacs teleporting all over the map, it's doubly confusing. Wait, confusing for your enemies or confusing for you? I don't know. I'm confused. Your enemies are going to be confused, and you're going to win lots of games because of it. And we all know the feeling of what it's like to not have an impact in a game. This way, you can guarantee that you're in the fight. Now, there's one other agent who can get up to a little bit of mischief with the TPs, and that's Omen. In case you didn't know, with Omen, if you jump into the teleporter while you Shrouded Step, you can trigger the teleporter sound cue to make it sound like someone's gone through it, but your Shrouded Step will prevent you from actually traveling through the teleporter, and you'll end up right back where you started. And that's fun, but is it that good? Being able to fake TP is cool, but not always actually that helpful. Unlike Yoru and Waylay, he doesn't get the benefit of being able to go through the teleporter and come back. He can only fake the sound of it. And he also suffers on bind in a similar way that Breach does. Paranoia has limited use cases, and his ult that you'll often use to teleport across one side of the map to the other to save a round is nullified by bind's teleporters. Everyone can TP across the map, and they don't need 7 ult points to do it. You can definitely make some nice plays with Omen, especially on A site where you can teleport around through all the boxes and use the verticality. But don't be surprised if you find Omen to be inconsistent. Someone who is pretty consistent though is Viper. If you already have someone to take care of the primary smoking duties, or you're a Sentinel main, Viper is so strong on bind. There's just 2 walls you need to know to get started. This wall on defense, which cuts off both entrances to B site and the front of showers. And on attack, this wall for A short, which there's a couple of different versions of, but this one's the easiest to get started with. This helps give you control of the teleporter, lets you lurk into lamps, and separates the cross angle from showers and lamp, making it more difficult for defenders to contain it on the weak side. And that brings us to Sentinels, who are generally very healthy on bind right now. Everyone is seeing a good amount of play, with the exception of Vice. Vice has been traditionally solid on bind, but with the power creep of other Sentinels, she's getting outvalued by her easier to play counterparts. Bind is a map where flank watch utility is optional. It doesn't mean you shouldn't watch it though. You just use your eyeballs instead. But what that means is Sage and Deadlock can shine with their ability to stall and trap attackers once they commit to sight, which is why both Sage and Deadlock are in S tier. Other notable strong agents include Skye and Viper. Moving on to Corrode now, where stocks are rising across the Sentinel class like we expected. There's been a shift in popularity away from Cypher as he continues to underperform, even though he's still the second most popular in most ranks. I think Cypher's a bit of a bait agent, with his potential being quite high on Corrode, but the things he does are less impactful to winning, so you high roll in some rounds and feel really good because of your crazy setups, but then in other rounds you kind of have no impact. We're keeping him in A tier because if you are a one-trick Cypher, you're still going to perform well, and a big reason is the prevalence of Neon. If Neon ever falls out of the meta though, you might see Cypher fall too. Chamber has found a home on Corrode, becoming the most picked Sentinel and is performing strongly. Trying to take mid control against a Chamber is always tricky if they're ready and willing to play aggressively with Rendezvous, and he has a good time taking duels in both A and B main. Jet's still seeing a ton of pick rate as well, like every map, but it's no surprise that it's on the lower end of her pick rate relative to other maps. Jet doesn't bring that much to Corrode. Her biggest asset is dive entering, which is not at all important on A, and on B can get you into trouble if you don't have really good support. And I'm bringing Raze down from S tier to A tier. Whilst Raze still has a lot of great tools on Corrode, most players are struggling to unlock her full potential. She's fairly dominant in Radiant right now, but everywhere else she's falling short. And she's not having a defining impact on the matter, which is normally the bar that I set for S tier agents, which on Corrode is Neon and Yoru. It is a more complex map to get the most out of him, but for new Yoru players, it can still be simple enough to learn a couple of lineups and pick him up with relative ease. Focus on info gathering around the extremities and using your gate crash to cheat rotate timings. For Initiators, Skye is a solid and straightforward pick for low to mid elo. Simply use your dog for mid control and use flash to exec B or out A yard, and dog can clear up through halls for you as well. Fade is still sitting at the top of Corrode, and that's because a kid is just so good for the map. She's great at contesting mid, but Haunt can also see everything on site, and every pro team is using this Haunt that lands high up on mid for early control. The last bastions of Harbor appear to be fading on Corrode as everyone becomes more familiar with the map and the right areas to play in. There's less window for cheating rounds with fast plants. That doesn't mean he's unplayable though. I'm bringing him down to S tier as a second controller, and he's also seeing an absurdly high win rate when playing with Waylay, where he can carve pockets of space to protect Waylay as she takes a lot of space, or even using Cove for her to dive in. Viper is so strong that she's becoming half viable as a solo controller. That comes with a big caveat though. She's performing much better when she's playing with other agents who have vision denial, almost like a pseudo second controller. I'm talking about agents like Jet, Neon, and Cypher. For your low elo picks, Phoenix, Breach, Clove, and Sage are all great picks for contesting mid in really simple ways. And here's your recommended comps for Premier and 5 stacks. Let's jump over to Haven now, where there's no real evolution in the meta, but let's talk about some different agents from last time. KO is in some desperate need of some love. This is his best map statistically, but that could honestly be just all of the agents being closer in statistics on Haven. Win rate is not always a reliable indicator of strength, especially low win rates, because if you haven't mastered KO, then you're simply not going to contribute positively to your team's success. You can use his dagger for the A lobby contest, and you can throw it from either A or B. And it's pretty easy to throw some very good pop flashes for your team's exec. Just don't get caught up in the spacing of your team. Hold back so you can be ready to flash at the drop of a hat. The controller meta on most maps in Valorant mostly revolves around Clove and Omen, as I'm sure you're aware. On Haven though is where Omen takes the largest chunk of that pie, and it's because the map was literally built for him. We've touched on Omen before in our last tier list, so in this one I'll focus specifically on how you can be a menace on C site. If attackers are execing C, smoke off long and paranoia as they entry, swing to kill. But you can also play in that smoke and wipe out the whole team. Buy yourself a judge and play in the front right pocket of sight. Smoke just off center so you can play in the smoke but still have the wall as protection. Enjoy your new life as a farmer. Crop of choice, RR. But what if I get pushed from garage? Simple. Give yourself a turtle smoke mid-sight and TP into it. And if you need a retake, don't smoke C long, smoke logs instead. Now you can flood out of backside without having to worry about crossfires, and then use your second smoke on the spike. With 5 lanes to cover, you're going to be playing less Deadlock and more Killjoy and Cypher. It would take a lot to change them from being the 2 best Sentinels on this map, thanks purely to the amount of coverage they provide, including being the only 2 agents who can get forward info of mid with relative safety. But if you're a Duelist main and you are too slow to insta-lock, lock in chamber, baby. Haven is all about taking early space, and there's no better way to do that than having a free Googe Fucker. In low elo, you're not going to have clean executes, so consider ISO and Reyna, where you can take skirmishing duels. Same goes for team structure, so Cypher and Killjoy are even more important for holding those lurks and flanks. And here's your recommended comps. Unironically, the 9 lives comp is very good for anyone up to plat elo. Beyond that, having proper movement agents becomes much more important. Between Haven and Lotus, which 3-site map do you actually like the best? They have quite a few similarities in a macro and a structure sense, but their agent metas are completely different. Let's jump into our Sentinels, where Sage has had a spike in pick rate on Lotus since the buffs. Her win rate has remained almost exactly the same though. She'll be remaining in A tier. Does that mean the buffs don't matter? No, it means that with an influx of new Sage players, her win rate has held position, and you should see a small increase over time. Vice continues to be the centerpiece of the Lotus meta. This is her most picked map and her equal best map with Abyss. Vice gives you a lot of agency on Lotus as a Sentinel main. You can choose to anchor sight, or you can fight aggressively for Mound. There's no other agent who can do both of those things at a high level, and she's fantastic at punishing poorly constructed team comps. If your team comp doesn't have a duelist with a movement ability, you can get cooked on Lotus. Won't be able to break through the Senti setups on the C choke point, and if your opponents know what they're doing, they'll never let you out of a lobby. And that's why Raze is incredible on Lotus. She can use her satchels to either quickly jump up rock or fly across to rubble. We love options, and I know it's hard, but you don't have to double satchel every time you use them. You can save one. It's great for getting past crossfires like front A or front C, or even using one to blow up Sentinel util on C, which means you don't have to use your paint shells and you can invest it into an important pocket on site. Now, you can't destroy Vice's shear, but you can jump trigger it and use satchel to get back to safety. For initiators, Skye is a great pickup on Lotus. You can use Trailblazer to scale incredibly quickly, and the secret sauce to Skye is how you use her flashes. It has a big impact because overall, flashes are generally worse on Lotus. It's due to map structure, that's a topic for another video, but just trust me for now. Skye has the unique ability to alter the timing of her flash, so head into a custom and practice some crazy flash lineups, pathings, I don't even know what to call these. Then fly your flash out into an obvious position position, but don't pop it. Circle it back. Any good players will instinctively turn away from the flash, but your teammates know that you're going to delay it. So either your opponents will turn back around and get flashed, or your teammates will get the freest kills of their lives shooting your enemies in the back of the head. Until something changes in the controller class, Arbory work question mark? I'm going to keep recommending Viper in a duo controller setup, but if that's not possible for you, everyone except Harbor will be fine. And the reason for this is most of the time with any of these controllers, you'll want to be playing in B so you can be ready to smoke any site, which means range isn't as big of an issue here for Clove and Brim. And all four of these controllers have their own way of contributing significantly to the A lobby fight. Other notable agents who are very strong on Lotus are Yoru, Neon, and Fade. If you're in low elo, you normally don't have to worry too much about getting shut out of A, so you can pick ISO as a solo duelist. Fade is a great agent to learn, and Killjoy can do a lot of the same things that Vice can do. And for your comps right now, Viper or double duelist variations are strong, but if you're feeling really spicy, check out this triple Senti comp. And now we prepare for the sunset of our tier list with our tier list for Sunset. Things are pretty steady on Sunset, but there's one standout pick, and that's Clove. Picking Clove on Sunset is statistically the best solo pick you can make in Valorant right now. Their non-mirror win rate is an absurd 56.24%, and they can play all across the map on defense, dual mid without fear of dying, meddle the A main rush. The next closest non-mirror win rate is Sage, who's only 51.54, but that's also very good. Sage's buff makes throwing her barrier orb so bloody easy. It's one of the easiest ways to get plant quickly down on B, but there's several spots where your wall gets insane value by being able to block off enemy pathing and get access to verticality. And no, I mean more than just standing on top of your wall, but I'm still waiting to see anyone pull this off in ranked. Moving over to Duelists, and sorry Yoru mains, but this is a map where he struggles on. There's just not enough for him to do. But let me know if you think I'm wrong. You'll always be safe on any Duelist who can clear pockets of space or assist with vision blocking. Key areas for that are aggressive elbow pushes, glass and palms on B site, and diag on A site. The same holds true for Initiators and why it's a really good map for Initiators in general. Tejo sits in B tier solo, but pairs really well with all of the Initiators above him, especially Breach, where you can still get a glimpse of the dominance of the Teo Breach meta from earlier in the year. He also pairs really well with Sage, who can slow people targeted by salvos. For your flex slots, consider Viper in higher elo and Waylo Phoenix are always a great duo. In low elo, focus on the agents who can help get the plant down and stick the defuse, like Gecko, Clove, and Sage. Run a full comp this way. I like to call it vegan gaming because it's all about planting, like plants, you know? Plant the spike, eat plants. Ah, you get it. I know you get it. Just like how you get that you should like this video and subscribe if you're interested in the content. And if you're interested in Valorant esports, check out our new VCT breakdowns. We're going to have more coming in the future.